Hey guys. Okay, so one of the very first videos I ever recorded way back in 2018 was all about the subdivision process. Now I still refer to that video at least once a week when people come to me with subdivision inquiries. However, these days when I send it through to people, it is just covered in a heap of FYI notes. I'm forever saying things like, hey guys, so in the video I kind of mentioned that a 1 into 2 lot subdivision is going to cost you a minimum of 80 grand. Yeah. You're dreaming if you think you're going to spend 80 grand these days. Like, prices have gone up so much since then. Or I'm sitting there saying things like, yeah, so in the video I talk about the plan, sealing, seal smart process. Yeah, it doesn't exist anymore. Awkward. So I thought after 5 years, the time has finally come to redo this video so we can include some more up-to-date sort of information. So, where to start? When it comes to the subdivision process from a town planning perspective, I believe there is kind of 6 key phases to the process. Phase number 1 is to analyse your site and to work out whether it actually has any subdivision potential. So, from a town planning perspective, I think I've got something like 20 different things on my checklist that I work through. And town planning, I do need to stress this, town planning is one teeny tiny part of the process. There is so much else that you need to work through when looking at a subdivision. So when it comes to a town planning perspective, you're looking at things like zoning, and I will, when I go back and edit this video, include a table that shows you what the minimum lot sizes are for each zone. So you need to go in and go, okay, do I have the right lot size for this zone, etc., etc. Then you've got to work through overlays, like, if you've got flood overlay, and therefore do you need to fill at least 300 square meters of each block up to the required level to be able to demonstrate flood immunity, or if you've got bushfire hazard overlay, and therefore do you need to demonstrate that there's not a high risk factor there, or if you've got like a waterway corridor overlay, a space that council doesn't necessarily want to put new boundaries through, etc., etc., etc. Or neighbourhood plans, like if you've got a neighbourhood plan there that alters the standard rules. So as an example, Mogul-Balbarry District Neighbourhood Plan, bit of a mouthful, NPP 002, so sub-precinct 002, they actually, the wording within that neighbourhood plan, let me get my words out, the wording within that neighbourhood plan actually discourages the creation of rear lots. And I think off the top of my head, front lots need to be a minimum of 800 square metres or something like that. So yeah, neighbourhood plans, whilst uncommon, can totally change the game. Then you've got to look at things like, okay, protected vegetation or services. So when it comes to services, do you have lawful point of discharge? Do you need to cater for upstream drainage? Do you have a combined drain? There's just so many things to consider here. So yeah, the point is you've actually got to analyse your site to make sure it has some subdivision potential. And like I suggested, it's not just town planning that comes into that. There are a whole heap of other factors that need to be considered. Then from there, you need to actually do the feasibility. Now, this one bugs me all the time because people come to me and they're like, oh, how much is it going to cost to do a subdivision? And I'm like, yeah, that's not a question you can just pull a number out of the air for. Like, you've got to work through each checklist. You've got to go, okay, for this line item, it's going to cost this line item, that, because each and every site is unique in terms of where's the sewerage line, how much demolition, like how much structure are you going to demolish and all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, there is so much involved in that. But at a super duper high level, I would be honestly surprised these days if you could get away with it for under 100 grand or even 100 grand. Like, to tick that box, you would need to own the site already, so therefore not be paying stamp duty and all of that sort of stuff. It would need to be clear already, so you don't need to worry about demolition fees, tree clearing fees, all of that sort of stuff. Like, there is, and it must be the most vanilla site in terms of services and all of that sort of stuff. Like, those sites just don't exist. So yeah, if you're absolutely lucky, if every single star aligns for you, maybe close to 100 grand. More realistically these days, you're looking at 150 to 200 grand to do a subdivision. But I do stress again here, you need to sit down and get a quote for every single line item and add it up and work out for that exact site, what is it going to cost me? Now, point I want to make here is those 2 first stages that I talked about, so analysing the site, finding a site and analysing it, and then the feasibility, that's where developers make their money. It's where they earn their bucks at the end of the day. So, Development 101, you're doing a development because you want to make money most of the time. So yeah, you've got to earn your money somehow, and that's where it is. I will see clients regularly spend a good year, searching for sites, finding sites, analysing them, realising it's a dud, moving on, etc., etc. So don't underestimate the pain and the time that goes into those first 2 stages. Then from there, you basically, once you've decided, hey, look, it's all going to stack up, let's go ahead with this, you need to get a surveyor involved, normally, to prepare a proposal plan. I say normally because if you're well above the lot size requirements, so let's say it's the minimum lot size of 400 square meters and you've got 450 per lot, hey, you could probably do a desktop plan. You may not need to get the surveyor out there at that stage to do the survey to prepare the plan, but either way, you've got to get some sort of plan, whether it's desktop or a survey. And that plan shows where the boundaries are going to go, what the lot sizes are going to be in terms of square meterage, what the lot size is going to be in terms of frontage, average width, all of that sort of stuff. So you get the proposal plan, then you go through and get any consultant reports that are required. So if your site doesn't have vanilla, really vanilla services, so if you've got something a little bit non-standard from a lawful point of discharge perspective or something like that, you'll need to engage the civil engineer to prepare a report or a plan up front to show how you're going to deal with the services. Or as another example, if you're in the industrial amenity overlay, you may need to engage like an odour consultant or a noise consultant or something like that to demonstrate that council's not going to be creating a complaint generator for themselves in the future. So they're basically not creating a lot that's then going to have a house on it, that's then going to have people in it, that are then going to complain about that servo down the road, essentially populating is not the right word, pumping out. That's what I was going for. Pumping out a heap of fumes and all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, you go around, you get any required consultant reports. At the same time, your town planner goes and starts preparing the application to go to council. Once you have your plan, your consultant reports if required, and the town planner's done their thing, they lodge it with council. Now, from there, the time frame depends on which process you're going through, which depends on how complex the site is. So if you have, again, a real vanilla site like ticks every single boxes, and I'll be honest, this is super duper rare these days. We always joke all the easy sites are gone. But if you do happen to have a real vanilla tick box site, you could go through RiskSmart and potentially get the approval within 2 to 4 weeks. More realistically, you're going to be going through the team and you're probably looking at 2 to 3 months. If it's something that has a lot of issues that you need to tic-tac back and forth with council, you might be looking at 4 to 5 months. Now, I do stress here, I'm talking about 1 and 2 lot subdivision scale subdivisions. I'm not talking about the big ones out there. The big ones can take a year to 18 months, if not more, if there's complex sort of issues. So in this video here, I'm talking more so about the smaller end, the 1 and 2s. So you lodge your application with council. At the end, you get the approval. The approval comes out with a conditions package. Then the real fun starts. Then you've got to go through and meet all of those conditions. So meeting the conditions means doing things like demolishing any structures like houses on the property that are sitting across the boundaries, potentially putting in new footpaths, connecting the sewerage, connecting the water, all of that sort of stuff. Now that phase will take you a lot longer than you ever anticipate. Urban utilities, for example, getting connection approvals to tap into their sewerage lines or water lines, at the moment that's taking 3+ months. Now, if you know that your site is going to go all the way through, it's not going to have any tweaks or changes in the town planning, or sorry, I should say the council assessment process, you can potentially start that connection process at an earlier sort of point. So back before you lodge the town planning application or when you go to lodge the town planning application. But normally what we like to do is sequence things one after the other, because that way if something changes in the town planning phase, you don't need to then go back and change what you're doing with the urban utilities. But yeah, if you're comfortable that there's not going to be any changes, you can kind of overlap those things a little bit. So yeah, work through all of the conditions, and then at the very end, you pay your infrastructure charges, which I talked about in last week's video. So yeah, go through, do all the work and pay your infrastructure charges. And then what you need to do is lodge the plan sealing application. Now, we used to, as town planners, lodge a lot of these. Over the years, we've started kind of passing the buck to surveyors to do them. Surveyors have a lot more experience when it comes to the end of the process, and they do these things day in, day out. So we personally, as a business, have decided, hey, we're probably not the most cost-effective and most efficient person to be doing it, like working in that space. Yeah, we can definitely lodge it for you, but I can't hand on heart say I'm the best person for it. So have a chat to your surveyor and get them to do it. So what they will do is essentially collate evidence that demonstrates you've met each one of the conditions. So for example, we need a photo to show your footpath's gone in. We need a photo to show that the house has been demolished or there's no structures left. We need as constructed plans to show that the sewer line has gone in where it's supposed to go in, etc., etc. Now, big point I want to make here. Back in the day, It was all shades of grey. It was a bit vague. It was a bit wishy-washy. Like, we would be forever lodging plan sealing applications, which I should clarify. The purpose of the plan sealing application is to give council the opportunity to check that you've done everything required by the conditions. So to make sure that you've done the work that you needed to do. So yeah, back in the day, we would regularly lodge plan sealing applications and just be like, not applicable. Yeah, done that. Trust us, we've done that. And it would kind of get through. Like, there wasn't a lot of scrutiny back then. These days, totally different story. Council is super duper, what's the word I'm looking for? Fine-grained. Basically, they check everything with a fine-tooth comb. That's what I'm trying to say. So yeah, you do need to make sure that you adhere to every single condition. You read it in super duper detail to make sure you know what you need to do before you get to that plan sealing stage. So yeah, do all the work, get your evidence to show you've done the work. Most likely the surveyor or potentially town planner, whoever lodges the plan sealing application with council, they go through and check everything off to make sure, yes, you've done what you're supposed to do. Then they theoretically stamp the plan. I say stamp the plan because back in the day it literally was a stamp on the plan. These days it's electronically done. So yeah, you get your plan sealing approval, then you go to titles office and you register with the titles office. That final stage is really easy. You fill out a form, pay some money, a couple of weeks later it pops out. So, timeframes. When it comes to these processes, absolute minimum, and I mean absolute minimum I've seen anyone do it in recent times is 7 months. And that person had the most vanilla site. Almost vanilla site. They knew exactly what they were doing because they live and breathe this stuff day in, day out. And they had the connections to be able to call in favours to get things moving and all of that sort of stuff. So if you did it in under 7 months from purchasing the site or deciding to do the subdivision on your existing property through the registration of the titles, I would be just gobsmacked. Like, it just won't happen. More realistically, someone who has experience in this space, they're probably going to take about 9 months. Someone who doesn't necessarily have experience but is pretty proactive and moves pretty quickly and tries to overlap things, maybe 12 months. More realistically, I'm going to say 12 to 18 months at the moment. And that has a lot to do with the fact that the industry is still overloaded from the whole COVID boom and all that sort of stuff. A lot of people think that things have changed out there. Trust me, it's still busy out there. So, I think that covers off everything I wanted to talk about. First, you've got to find the site and then analyse the site. Do your feasibility, get your survey, your proposal plan and your consultant reports, get the town planner working on their thing. Town planner lodges the application, council approves it. Then you've got to run around and do the work required by the approval, which, believe me, will take a long time. You'll rip your hair out. And that's the point where it gets really frustrating because everyone thinks they're at the finish line and they're like, oh, we're ready to go. And it stalls and it stalls and it stalls. And yeah, everyone's stressed because they're up to the wazoo in finance and all of that sort of stuff. But yeah, do the work, lodge the plan sealing application, get it approved, do your titles. Happy days. That's all there is to it. Okay, I think that's everything today. As I always like to say, until next time, thanks for watching.
For all you red tape lovers out there, I have one thing to say. Well, no, actually, I've got 3. Number 1, the advice provided in these videos is general in nature. It's not site specific. You would be a silly billy to go and make financial decisions based on this advice without first checking with the town planner. Don't be a silly billy. Number 2, Brisbane town planning is in no way linked to Brisbane City Council. The views expressed in these videos are my own, not council's. So if you don't like them, blame me, not council. Number 3, what was my number 3? Oh yeah, the views expressed in these videos are accurate at the time of recording. If you're watching this video back 10 years from now, the views may not be so accurate. That's all. Bye.